Hollywood has always sold fantasies, but nothing shattered those silver screen dreams faster than a scandalous affair. Back in the Golden Age, studios hid everything until they couldn't. Careers were made in a flash and ruined just as fast by a whispered rumor or a midnight rendezvous. But which stars saw their empires crumble for loving the wrong person? And how far did the fallout really go? Tonight, we're peeling back the studio gloss to reveal the affairs that didn't just raise eyebrows, they set entire careers on fire. Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. Imagine being America's cinematic angel, the very definition of grace and glamour, and then waking up to find yourself declared box office poison on the floor of the U.S. Senate. That's exactly what happened to Ingrid Bergman after her whirlwind affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini. In the late 1940s, Bergman was the adored star of Casablanca, the poster child for on-screen virtue and European class. But when she left both her husband and her Hollywood career behind to work with, and secretly love, Rossellini on the film Stromboli, all hell broke loose. The scandal wasn't just personal, it was international. Both were married. Then came the bombshell. Bergman was pregnant by Rossellini, and the American public lost its collective mind. Senator Edwin C. Johnson publicly denounced her as a powerful influence for evil. Newspapers frothed. Churches preached against her. The woman who once embodied innocence now stood at the epicenter of a morality panic. Hollywood slammed its doors, blacklisting her overnight, and even her native Sweden turned its back. For nearly a decade, Bergman was forced into exile, making films in Europe while her former industry pretended she'd vanished. Only after an Oscar-winning comeback in Anastasia did Hollywood grudgingly forgive her. But the message had already been burned into the celluloid. One affair, no matter your stature, and you could lose everything. Bergman's fall from grace wasn't just dramatic. It was a warning to every star who dared to follow their heart over their contract. Charlie Chaplin and Joan Barry. When the world's most beloved clown morphed into Hollywood's ultimate scandal magnet, the fallout was seismic. Charlie Chaplin, already infamous for his string of affairs with much younger women, stumbled into disaster when he began a volatile relationship with actress Joan Barry. What started as a messy romance quickly spiraled into chaos. Barry became pregnant and filed a sensational paternity suit, blasting their private drama onto every front page in America. The trial was pure spectacle, with lurid details, courtroom drama, and Chaplin's personal life picked apart for all to see. It wasn't just the public who was outraged. The FBI, ever the moral police, put Chaplin under surveillance, painting him as a threat to American values and even suggesting communist sympathies. The fallout was immediate and vicious. Studios, who once battled for Chaplin's genius, wanted nothing to do with him. Congress and the press branded him un-American. Protesters picketed his premieres. Even his box office magic couldn't save him. In 1952, when Chaplin left for a European film premiere, the U.S. government revoked his re-entry permit, effectively exiling him for good. He never truly returned to American filmmaking. Chaplin's story isn't just a tale of personal failure. It's a Hollywood cautionary fable. You could make millions laugh, but one scandal, just one, and the world's most famous face could disappear overnight. In a town built on image, Chaplin learned the hard way that there's no immunity for icons when the tabloids and the law come calling. Elizabeth Taylor and Eddie Fischer. You want a scandal that scorched an entire industry? Elizabeth Taylor's affair with Eddie Fischer did just that. At first, it looked like a classic tragedy. Taylor, recently widowed after the death of her husband Mike Todd, was at her lowest, and Fischer, her best friend Debbie Reynolds' husband, came to comfort her. But comfort, in Hollywood, often comes with late-night visits, hushed whispers, and more than a little chemistry. When the truth surfaced, it exploded like dynamite. Reynolds was left heartbroken, the public was furious, and the tabloids crowned Taylor a homewrecker. It wasn't just gossip. Careers were obliterated. Fischer, once a clean-cut pop idol with a thriving TV and recording career, became persona non grata overnight. Studios dropped him, sponsors ran for cover, and his A-list status evaporated. Taylor, for all her undeniable talent and magnetic screen presence, paid dearly too. She was blacklisted by brands, shunned at industry events, and found her every move dissected for fresh scandal. Even years later, she confessed, "I was the Scarlet Woman," forever marked by a love affair that cost her as much as it thrilled her. In a town that survives on secrets and image, the Taylor-Fischer scandal proved there's no such thing as a private heartbreak. In classic Hollywood, one wrong turn, and your Cinderella story gets a rewrite with no happy ending. Lana Turner and Johnny Stompinado. No actress defined high-octane Hollywood drama quite like Lana Turner. She was the platinum blonde bombshell, whose on-screen romances were rivaled only by her real-life disasters. But nothing compared to her doomed love affair with Johnny Stompinado, the mob-connected enforcer, whose temper was as notorious as his ties to LA's criminal underworld. Their relationship was tabloid gold, jealousy-fueled arguments, rumors of violence, and the kind of reckless passion the press couldn't invent fast enough. The turning point came in 1958, when one of their explosive fights ended with Turner's teenage daughter Cheryl fatally stabbing Stompinado as he threatened her mother. The trial was pure media circus. Turner's tearful testimony, Cheryl's acquittal, and the seedy details made headlines around the globe. But as the public's appetite for drama soured, so did Turner's career. Studios, wary of controversy, offered her fewer roles and shrinking paychecks. The former queen of Hollywood glamour was now a liability. Whispered about at parties she was no longer invited to. Turner survived, barely, but her image was forever marked by scandal. She went from red carpet royalty to living cautionary tale, proving that in Tinseltown, falling for a bad boy could cost you your entire kingdom, leaving you with nothing but the ghosts of a headline you'll never outlive. Mary Aster and George S. Kaufman. In an industry built on secrets, Mary Aster's were written down, and that's exactly what almost ended her. Aster, best known for her role in The Maltese Falcon, was a darling of the screen, praised for her talent and grace. But behind the scenes, she carried on a passionate affair with playwright George S. Kaufman, pouring her heart, and more, into a private diary. That diary became the centerpiece of a messy custody battle with her estranged husband, who saw an opportunity for revenge and made the most of it. The diary's explicit pages were introduced as evidence in court, and soon the press had a field day publishing passages that would still raise eyebrows today. Aster's carefully constructed image collapsed overnight. Sponsors dropped her, studios froze her out, and her once stellar reputation was tarnished beyond repair. For years she fought her way back, taking whatever roles she could find, her talent battling against the shadow of her own words. Though she ultimately regained custody of her daughter and even won an Oscar, the Aster diary scandal was never far behind. It became a lesson in Hollywood survival. Even a private confession, if unearthed, could burn your legacy to the ground. In a world where privacy was an illusion, Aster's heartbreak was broadcast as a warning for every star with something to hide, Errol Flynn and Beverly Adland. If old Hollywood ever needed a poster boy for reckless charm and self-destruction, Errol Flynn was the man for the job. Legendary for swashbuckling roles and riotous off-screen escapades, Flynn built his career on breaking rules. But by the late 1950s, his devil-may-care reputation turned deadly serious when he began a highly publicized affair with Beverly Adland, an aspiring actress shockingly still in her teens. Flynn flaunted their relationship, taking Adland everywhere from exclusive Hollywood parties to red carpet premieres, behaving as if the age difference was just another of his many provocations. For a while, it seemed like just another Flynn headline. But this time, the town's patience snapped. Hollywood studios, already fed up with Flynn's chronic drinking, run-ins with the law, and volatile moods, found the Adland scandal impossible to ignore. Offers dried up almost overnight. He was relegated to cheap, foreign productions. The former king of adventure films now adrift and unwelcome. The gossip mills went into overdrive when Beverly's mother published a sensational tell-all, confirming every sordid detail. Suddenly, Flynn wasn't just a bad boy. He was radioactive. Tabloid coverage hounded his final years, reducing him to a scandal cautionary tale. When Flynn died at 50, it wasn't with the flourish of a Hollywood hero, but as a fallen icon, a star destroyed by the kind of headline no studio could spin. Loretta Young and Clark Gable. Behind every Hollywood smile is a secret, but none were guarded as fiercely as the truth between Loretta Young and Clark Gable. Their affair began on the snowy set of Call of the Wild, both stars at the peak of their fame, and both with images that left no room for error. Gable was the roguish leading man, married and adored. Young was America's embodiment of virtue. When Young became pregnant, the consequences threatened to end both their careers. Hollywood was ruthless in the 1930s. Scandal meant extinction. The lengths they went to hide the truth were extraordinary. Young disappeared from public life, eventually returning and passing off her daughter Judy as an adopted child. Studio fixers paid off hospital staff, hushed up rumors, and maintained the charade for decades. The psychological toll on Young was immense, as she balanced motherhood, guilt, and a constant fear that a single whisper could topple everything. For Gable, the risk was real. He'd already survived scandals, but a confirmed affair with a pregnant co-star could have wrecked his box office crown for good. The truth only came out after both had died, but the legacy of that secret shaped Young's life and career. Her resilience was remarkable, but her story revealed how old Hollywood devoured its own to protect a myth. In a town where image was everything, surviving meant becoming your own best liar and living with the cost. Barbara Payton, Francho Tone, and Tom Neal. There are scandals, and then there's the car crash that was Barbara Payton's Hollywood career. Once a starlet with endless promise, Payton got swept into a love triangle so toxic it made national news. Francho Tone was the sophisticated leading man. Tom Neal was the hot-headed bad boy. Both men fought for Payton, literally. In one infamous incident, Neal brutally beat Tone, sending him to the hospital and launching Payton's private life into front-page infamy. Rather than step back from the drama, Payton seemed to double down, inviting press coverage and flaunting her tumultuous relationships. The public was riveted, but the studios weren't impressed. Overnight, Payton went from rising star to box office poison. Her name, once a promise of glamour, became shorthand for disaster. Roles evaporated, endorsements disappeared, and Hollywood insiders turned their backs. Out of work and increasingly isolated, Payton spiraled into addiction. Her every stumble splashed across the tabloids. What began as a Hollywood romance became a full-blown cautionary tale. In Tinseltown, a little scandal might keep you interesting, but too much will bury you alive. Payton's ashes were scattered, but her story lingers as a warning. Sometimes, even the wildest flame burns out long before the final act. Joan Crawford and Clark Gable. Some Hollywood love affairs are impossible to contain, no matter how many studio fixers are on the payroll. Joan Crawford and Clark Gable were the industry's alpha pair, both married, both magnetic, both used to getting their way. Their off-screen relationship was an open secret, igniting rumors and setting tongues wagging in every corner of Los Angeles. MGM's legendary boss, Louis B. Mayer, pulled every trick in the book to cover up their romance. Threats to gossip columnists, staged dates with other stars, and carefully managed publicity stunts. But the studio's efforts only delayed the inevitable. As the whispers grew louder, the repercussions seeped into Crawford's career. She was typecast as dangerous, her strong-willed persona weaponized against her by those looking for a reason to push her out. Industry insiders labeled her difficult, and eventually, the deadly phrase box office poison stuck. Gable survived thanks to his unstoppable popularity, but Crawford had to reinvent herself, clawing her way back from the edge with new contracts and a bold new image. The lesson was unmissable. In old Hollywood, even the most powerful women were vulnerable to scandal, especially when their lovers wore crowns. Crawford's fire kept burning, but her journey proved that a Hollywood queen always pays for her power, one headline at a time. Marry Aster and George S. Kaufman. Some careers end with a box office flop. Mary Astor's nearly ended with a scandalous notebook. Known for her classy roles and sharp wit, Aster kept a private diary that chronicled her steamy affair with playwright George S. Kaufman. When her bitter custody battle with her estranged husband exploded in court, he introduced the diary as evidence. Suddenly, America's sweet-faced actress was the star of a very public, very messy drama, with the press leaking juicy excerpts and fueling the fire. Aster's carefully cultivated image crumbled under the media's spotlight. Studios hesitated to cast her, fearing backlash from scandal-weary audiences. Sponsors dropped her, and her every move became tabloid fodder. Despite winning custody of her daughter, Aster faced years of career purgatory. Fewer roles, less money, more whispers. Even as she staged a comeback with The Maltese Falcon, the diary's shadow lingered. The Aster affair proved that in old Hollywood, privacy was a myth, and reputation was everything. Sometimes, it wasn't the affair itself, but the paper trail that torched a career faster than any angry spouse could. Marlene Dietrich and Jean Gabin. If old Hollywood had a queen of reinvention, it was Marlene Dietrich. But even she couldn't script a happy ending to her whirlwind affair with French screen idol Jean Gabin. The two met in the chaos of wartime Paris, and quickly became the stuff of international headlines. Dietrich, the sultry Berlin-born superstar with a flair for scandal, and Gabin, the brooding French actor who became her obsession. Their romance burned hot in public and private, with Dietrich following Gabin from set to set, shunning her Hollywood career for love in Europe. But Hollywood is a jealous town. As Dietrich spent more and more time overseas, her American studios began to pull back. Roles dried up, offers vanished, and her once coveted name slipped off the A-list. Gossip columnists painted her as disloyal, too European, and impossible to manage. Dietrich's legendary independence, which once made her a star, now branded her as a risk, and Gabin, too, was seen as a distraction. When their relationship inevitably ended, the fallout lingered. Dietrich never truly regained her superstar status in the U.S., and Gabin's own Hollywood ambitions fizzled. Their affair remains a case study in what happens when passion and ambition collide, and the studio system decides you're on the wrong side of the Atlantic. Tallula Bankhead and Gary Cooper. Tallula Bankhead never did anything halfway, including her legendary love affair with Gary Cooper. Bankhead was Hollywood's original rebel, a tornado of charisma, wit, and appetite for risk, while Cooper was America's favorite strong, silent type. Their whirlwind romance was the stuff of gossip column dreams, complete with stolen weekends, outrageous parties, and a trail of broken hearts in their wake. But their fling didn't just set tongues wagging. It made studio bosses sweat. Bankhead's open attitude toward her relationships and her refusal to hide who she was clashed hard with Hollywood's carefully guarded image of feminine virtue. The result? She was blacklisted from lead roles by major studios, labeled too wild and unmanageable. Cooper, while able to ride out the storm with his all-American reputation, watched as Bankhead's Hollywood fortunes dried up. She found new life on the stage, but her days as a film star were over. Her love life branded her as box office poison before the term was even popular. Bankhead's career crash wasn't just about one man. It was about refusing to let anyone, even Hollywood, tell her who to love. In a world built on image, Bankhead's truth was her own undoing and her legend. John Gilbert and Greta Garbo. Some love stories are epic, and some, like John Gilbert and Greta Garbo's, are tragic enough to rewrite Hollywood history. When the silent film heartthrob fell hard for the enigmatic Garbo, MGM saw box office gold. Off-screen, their affair was just as passionate, with talk of marriage and headlines speculating on their every move. But Garbo, famously private and fiercely independent, balked at the idea of tying herself to any man. Even Gilbert, whose devotion was absolute. The fallout was brutal. As their relationship imploded, so did Gilbert's career. Rumors swirled that studio boss Louis B. Mayer sabotaged him, slashing his salary, tanking his roles, and making sure the sound era left him behind. Garbo survived, evolving into a legend, while Gilbert's reputation as a man scorned and his declining box office power doomed him. For every leading man who thought love could conquer Hollywood, Gilbert's story is a haunting reminder. Sometimes, the real heartbreak isn't just in losing the girl. It's in losing everything that comes with her. Clara Bow and Harry Richmond. Clara Bow was the face of youthful rebellion in the 1920s, a symbol of Hollywood's wild side, loved by millions as the original It Girl. But when she started a whirlwind romance with nightclub singer Harry Richmond, the party quickly spiraled out of control. Their affair was tabloid gold, flashy cars, endless champagne, and enough drama to keep every gossip columnist in Los Angeles busy for months. They argued in public, made up just as loudly, and never missed a chance to hit the town arm in arm. Studio executives, already wary of Bo's off-screen antics, watched in horror as headlines about their feuds and lavish spending overshadowed her films. Things got ugly fast. Accusations of jealousy, fights at swanky nightclubs, and rumors of blackmail began to circulate. The relentless publicity machine chewed up their relationship and spat out both stars' reputations. For Bo, the consequences were brutal. Once the most sought-after actress in America, she suddenly found herself too risky to insure, let alone cast. Offers evaporated overnight. Richmond's music career stalled, and Bo, tired, scandalized, and feeling betrayed, left Hollywood behind before she turned 30. In the end, Clara Bow's love life didn't just fuel the tabloids. It put the final nail in the coffin of her stardom, showing that in old Hollywood, even the brightest flame could burn out in a flash. So there you have it. Behind the sparkling gowns, the perfect smiles, and the Oscar speeches, old Hollywood ran on secrets, cover-ups, and scandals that could end a career in a heartbeat. These weren't just love stories gone wrong. They were cautionary tales written in headlines and lost fortunes. Which affair do you think was the most explosive? Drop your thoughts below. Subscribe for more untold Hollywood history. And don't forget, sometimes, the juiciest stories are the ones the studios tried hardest to bury. What other legends should we dig up next?